How's it going, everybody? This is Rob of Novakast back with some more of Reaper's Creek, and this is chapter 3, and this is by Anit-Onision. Which I'm gonna say this. Thanks to everybody who's been concerned for my mental health for after reading this crap. I have a few people asking me, "Why are you torturing yourself?" I have no idea. Anyway, let's continue. Okay. The walk to the school bus was cold, the gravel covering the road up the hill to our stop creaked and crunched under my feet. I didn't understand why it was already so cold, but I just came from Ohio, a place I only knew for its 90 to 100 degree summers and blazing humidity. Maybe I just lost touch with the place I was born. The cold breeze, the gray skies, the place I knew to be everything became a faint memory after being in Ohio for only a few months, yet it still felt like home. My cousin Mitchell was at the top of the hill waiting for the bus as well. Joanna remained silent as we walked up. "Hi, Mitchell," I said as our quarter-mile walk came to an end. "Hi, Greg and Joanna," Mitchell replied. Mitchell had her bangs cut in a straight line, and she had dirty blonde hair and freckles. She was always kind of a geeky looking kid, but because we were only a year apart in age, we hung out a lot. "How long have you been waiting?" Joanna asked Mitchell. "About 9 years, it feels like," Mitchell replied. The bus came around the corner moments later. I looked at Mitchell and said, "Guess we got lucky with our timing." She immediately replied, "Shut you." Suddenly the bus exploded into 1,000 pieces. Mitchell was littered from head to toe with shrapnel and went flying over the side of the hill. Joanna was screaming in horror from her own wounds as Mitchell jolted around, spitting up blood and screaming, "Vacation, vacation now." I know I should apologize. That didn't really happen. What the fuck? That's fucked up. So he's imagining people in a school bus getting killed, and oh my gosh. But I imagine still like that all the time. The bus pulled up and took us to school just like I remembered. The smell was the same, the stops were basically the same, and the school itself looked the same. Ocean View Elementary. I'm not sure why it was called that, considering there was no ocean nearby. I don't see how there could be a view of such a massive but distant mass of water. Some of the teachers were waiting for us as we climbed off the bus. Maybe they just wanted to see what we all looked like, despite having no idea which of us were going to be appointed to each class. The first day of school was what I expected. Orientation. We met with a curly brown-haired lady. She was to be my teacher for every subject of the entire year. I had the unfortunate realization that I was to be in the same class as Heather Simpson, a girl who had hit on me the entire year prior. Oh my gosh. She would follow me around the halls, out on the playgrounds, everything. There wasn't a boys only sign. Heather was built like an Amazon child would be. Wouldn't it be wannabe, only bulkier? She had blonde hair, blue eyes, and despite how that sounds, was a pain to look at. Maybe it was her crooked teeth, or maybe it was her bad breath. One could easily smell from many feet away. After a lot of time killing... You mean killing time? That made no sense whatsoever. Time killing? The fuck? Our teacher finally released us for lunch, then recess. My favorite activity to take part in on the playground was the swings. I liked to swing as high as I could. No, it says could. Shouldn't it be can? As high as I can, then jump off. There was a ton of sawdust, so I didn't really worry about falling on the ground. Today I wanted to get further than any of the other kids, so I swung back and forth as hard as I could, but I landed short of the boy next to me. So I tried again, but again I landed short. Climbing back on, I thought about what happened last night, how angry I was at my uncle, how none of my family was there for me, and I felt like I lost a sense of any limitation in my body. I swung forward, then back, repeated in a way I barely remember. And quickly after, I was on the ground, touching the very edge of the border of the swing set area. In other words, I had swung so far, I nearly bashed my head on the pavement just outside the safe, sawdusted, rectangular floor. OMG, Daniel, that was insane. You were like a bird, a voice came from the side of the playground. It was my friend David. This was the first time I had seen him since last year and was immediately filled with joy. David, I screamed and ran over to him, immediately going for a high five. David returned my excitement and lifted his hand for a mutual high five. I felt a wet splat on my skin and realized I missed a key moment before we slapped hands. He had licked his hand as I lifted mine, because Daniel is and always will be disgusting. He's my friend, but he's disgusting. Gross, David, I yelled, and David replied not with words, but a laugh followed by a snort. David was wearing yellow, maroon, horizontal striped shirt. As usual, he was about 2 inches taller than me, had darker skin than me, and had his dark hair cut like he didn't have a care in the world. I saw your sister today, Daniel. She's hot, David belched. I replied, can you never say anything like that to me ever again, please? David again snorted, laughing. It was like a guy lived to trigger me. As we tried to catch up, the bell rang for us to come back in. David went for another high five, but I just ran away screaming, no, David. As I walked into the classroom, the teacher announced to us that she had already gone through all the materials for the day. She concluded that we should move on to start one subject of our schooling early, so we had more time for a butterfly project in the coming days. The subject we were to cover today was science, more specifically dinosaurs. This is a day I would remember for probably the rest of my life, as I was about to see something I had already seen, something I never wanted to see, but had been forced to experience the sight of again and again. The teacher pushed in the VHS, and At first, everything seemed normal. It was a generic film with the reptiles that lived on Earth long before humans. No big deal. But the narrator began talking about the concept that had no real scientific value, and I could think of. He asked the question, what if a human was combined with a dinosaur? Hearing this, I immediately scoffed. My condescending reaction was muffled quickly by the image they showed after. It was an alien. They called it a dinosaur-human DNA splice, but it was in fact almost identical to what I dreamt of before. The face that haunted my imagination was realized in a physical world. This was the first time I had seen anything like it with my own eyes. Immediately I stood up and left the classroom. The teacher didn't remember my name, yet she yelled after me, student. I ignored her and walked towards the principal's office. I was lost in horror and thought of how the rest of the class reacted. It was like none of them had seen him before, the alien. Why was I the only one who seemed upset? Why would they show that to such young kids? Why did they show that to me? As I walked into the principal's office, a plump, short secretary wearing a tacky flower dress immediately asked me why I was there. Rarely do kids wind up in the principal's office area on the first day. I replied I needed to call my mom, and I did. To my disappointment, but not my surprise, my mom was away at one of her many jobs. You know, somebody wrote in my comments, is his mom a quote-unquote prostitute? At least that's what it sounds like when I'm reading this. And I could see why some people would question it. I asked the secretary with tears beginning to fall down my cheek, can I stay here till it's time to go home? The secretary saw I was struggling and incredibly uncomfortable, so she called the principal out of her office. What's your name? Said the principal as she slowed in her approach towards me. I'm Daniel. I just want to wait here till the bus comes. Then I want to go home. The principal tried to get me to explain what was wrong, but I didn't want to talk about it. They called over to the class and had a student bring me my belongings from the room I abandoned. There I waited till the buses were ready to take me home. I didn't talk to my sister or my cousin the entire walk down the hill. As soon as I got through my bedroom door, I closed it and planted my face in my cheap foam pillow. I was going to wait until my mom got home to say anything. My mom was my safety and the only person I thought could protect me. I relied on her for everything and knew if I had anyone I could talk to about it, it was she, or she was it. That night, for dinner, we were having lentils and toast. My mom had put food in the crock pot to cook all day while she was at work. This was common for us as we didn't have a lot of money, and food like this was inexpensive. How was school, kids? My mom asked. All three of us, Christian, my eldest sister, remained silent while Joanna began her usual rant about everything involving her outfits, her hair, her friends' appearances by comparison to her own, or anything else involving her reflection. After Joanna was done talking about the most superficial of topics, my mom turned to me and asked how I was. I replied, the teacher showed me a picture of an alien on the video and I cried. The mom's face went from curious to angry in seconds. She replied, "They showed you a scary alien at your age?" I replied. It had dark black eyes, scales. It had no nose, but it had tiny holes where its nose would be, and they said it was a dinosaur human, but it looked like an alien. My sister Joanna laughed and said, "Wow, sounds awesome." I frowned and looked at my food hopelessly. My sister regularly seemed like a sociopath to me. So says the guy that freaking imagined a bus of kids being blown up, as well as his friend and his sister being caught or hurt by the explosion. I never understood why she thought my sadness was a laughing matter. My mom spoke again. "Well, I'll have a talk with your teacher." Not even having the emotional strength to nod, I just sat silently looking at my food till it was clear that everyone was done with dinner. After I put my head on my pillow, I finally After I put my head on my pillow, it's FRO. 4. Oh my gosh, do you even spell check this? I mean, I'm not one to talk, but freaking A. I know how to spell 4. FOR, not FRO. A final time that day, my fears became realized. The creature I dreamt of before had more strength than ever. He was here now, waiting in the black. Okay, and that was it. So, let's quickly talk about this before I end the video. Oh my gosh, I try to read this as quickly as possible because I don't want to spend too much time on it, you know. But overall, this is just dumb, and that was just out of the blue. Like, all of a sudden, the freaking bus blows up. That sounds very cruel. I mean, yeah, there's violence in other books, but still, he's like, "Oh, you thought that happened? No, it didn't happen." So this kid, it just sounds like this kid, or I'm assuming this kid is a representation of him, is really fucked up in the head. So, alright. I think I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. This is Rob of Novakast signing off. Have a good one, and take care. Peace.